7, 8, 9, 10.
I don't know why guys in studio are singing over the bar, yet the Super Eagles of Nigeria were eliminated from the championship as far as FIFA World Cup 21st edition of the ongoing FIFA World Cup in Russia is concerned. Of course, today two fixtures lined up: England against Sweden, then host Russia play Croatia in a late kickoff tie at 9 p.m. East African time. It's the Fan Zone, the fan favorite segment where we discuss international football with focus on the ongoing FIFA World Cup. And of course, I have four gentlemen as my panelists to take us through the analysis as far as the championship is concerned. Also, Robert, my co-host, is still with us. Then Fred Openda, closer to me, then at the middle, Deputy President of Sports Journalists Association of Kenya, James Magai, a loyal and diehard supporter of Three Lions donning the English jersey, though he's not certain whether they're going to be donning red or white. And Sam Gasharira, aka Petit, also joining us on set to discuss about FIFA World Cup. Starting with you, Fred, what do you think about the World Cup so far? Yesterday, heavyweights in the name of Brazil, 5-time World Cup champions, crashing out. But the main talking point, even as Uruguay also went home against France, has been goalkeeping blunder. What happened?
What about, that's how I can start my show this afternoon. Brazil, people were expecting. I was watching this game are somewhere, and then people were like expecting Brazil to progress. I told them, Martinez the other day, he said, who would not love a Fellaini in his team? Fellaini really covered well that midfield, and then they had the Hazard to do his thing, De Bruyne there. So Brazil had to go. Actually, they have not been convincing in this championship, to be sincere. So Belgium were the better side, they are gone.
They have not been convincing. James Magai, from where you sit, I know you've been keenly following proceedings of the championship, and goalkeeping blunders has been, the order of the day, from David De Gea, from Willy Caballero, now yesterday Fernando Muslera, performing poorly and, conceding unnecessary goals. Why do you think these goalkeepers have failed to replicate what they have done at club level for their national team?
Well, the pressure of playing in a World Cup knockout stage is immense. A case in point for Fernando Muslera, about 48 million people had their hopes on him, and I wouldn't actually call that goal a goalkeeping error. The ball was swerving. Who took the ball? One of the top strikers in Europe. And if you watch the replays, Muslera thought he had placed himself right behind the ball. Then it swerved a bit, and he was helpless at that point. So far, the World Cup to me is living up to my expectations of average teams, previously thought average teams, proving bigger teams wrong. And I like the way it's going. I like the big boys going out. At least my Three Lions have a better chance with the big boys going.
Petit, heavyweights and favorites, those who are tipped by the pundits as favorite to be crowned champions of the tournament, have been eliminated. Defending champions Germany, 5-time World Cup winners Brazil, Argentina, Spain 2010 South African winners also crashing out of the championship. What do you think happened, and where did the tacticians of this team went wrong to ensure that they don't remain in the championship and probably get even into the final stage of the World Cup?
I think this World Cup has shown us that there's some sort of revolution going about in the world football. You look at a team like Belgium. This is their golden generation. For a very long time, they've not had such a national team that is balanced in all departments. Roberto Martinez could be lucky because he's found himself with a very fantastic group of players to work with. You look at his back line, all his three centre halves, they play in the Premier League, arguably the best league in Europe. So for him, he has a very good group of players who can fit into any system. And when I talk about a revolution, in the past, these big teams, they've relied on the individual brilliance of their players. You look at a team like Brazil, when they won the World Cup in 2002, their star man was Ronaldo, and of course the youngster who was coming up then in Ronaldinho. But the World Cup has shown that, this World Cup has shown that even the small teams, if you remain true to your organization, to your system of play, you can go as far as you want. look at Sweden, where they have come this far. Not everybody fancied seeing Sweden in their last 8, but against all odds, they're in the last 8. Gareth Southgate with his England team, arguably one of the youngest teams to go into the World Cup. But what have they done? They've staged a surprise. Of course, you can say they were lucky in the shootout, but you don't get lucky in all games. You have to show that you did something in the qualifiers, and it's now paying off. So for me, I expect even bigger surprises moving forward, and we could see a final that could have one of the underdogs in this tournament.
I agree with you. Of course, teamwork plays an integral role, and we've seen several teams blending together going forward, than that enabling them to perform very well. But individual brilliance has also been one of the talking points, Robert Osoro, because we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, their teams crashing out of the championship, Portugal and Argentina respectively, and Pandit saying that they were enormously relied upon. Do you think that is also the same situation with Brazil? Neymar Jr. was enormously relied upon. Of course, we've seen a lot of names being branded on him, diving charlatan and unnecessary diving. And what do you think about Brazil and even their squad? Because even Tite, there is a claim that Tite had much trust in a squad that couldn't sparkle, because we saw when he brought in Douglas Costa, there was some sort of change, and the man who scored the goal, Renato Augusto. What do you think about Brazil and where they went wrong?
I think I'll concur with what Petita said. One thing is, we've got big teams in quotes. We've got Brazil in quote. The last time they won the championship was 2002. But what have they done up to today that has changed football? You realize that this team that people are calling the underdog team, the average teams, they have got better managers who are young, who are tactically sound. You look at Gareth Southgate with England, he was pulled from the under-21 side, and he had performed very well at the Euros with the under-21, coming into the senior side. You look at his selection, he's not just selecting a player because of the name. He's not going for that impact name that everybody is going to. He went for a player like Maguire. Before the World Cup, he was with Leicester. Yeah, people will be like, who is Maguire? But they do not realize that there's a guy who has helped Leicester lift a Premier League trophy. He brings him to the side. You look at his team tactics when they are playing. You've got Kyle Walker as a defender. You've got Trippier as a fullback. It works out for him very well. Now, look at a team like Croatia. They have individual talent that combines with teamwork, and it's given them what they have been doing and deserve. For Brazil, that reliability on Neymar was a bit undoing for them. Like yesterday in the game against Belgium, you could realize that they were attacking more from the Neymar wing, forgetting the other right side, and Belgium knew how to defend that. The moment they blew him out of the game, Brazil had nothing to do.
Yesterday's fixtures, Fred, and Belgium winning against Brazil, of course, in a late kickoff fix at 9 p.m. But before that, Les Bleus taking on Uruguay without Edison Cavani. Do you think his absence was a huge blow to Uruguayan's case to win that particular fix and proceed to the semi-final, considering that he had scored a brace against Portugal in their round of 16 tie?
Of course, it was a big blow for them to miss that man in that game. But we can say France played well. They were balanced in probably all the positions. Mbappe did his thing from there. We had the Griezmann doing his thing. So it's not really, we cannot say that Uruguay missing Cavani made them lose the match. France were technically organized. Pogba was well placed in that midfield. The Kantes, they were really playing well. The defense was a bit organized, because before their defense was like an undoing for them. Remember, because you remember the first match, they were losing that game because of the defense. But yesterday's game, they were a bit organized. The midfield was good. The attacking was fantastic. Mbappe does his thing as he has done previously. And remember, Mbappe now is one of the household names in that World Cup. And he's young, a teenager. He's
19 years.
Yeah, he's 19 years. So he's I think the youngest teenager to score in a World Cup also. Yeah.
James, prior the tournament, there was talk of a standout player in Le Bleu squad, and names like Paul Pogba, N'Golo Kante, Antoine Griezmann were mentioned. But who do you think has been, the pillar of that particular squad? It's a star-studded. It's a squad that comprises of players who feature for high and top-profile clubs in Europe. But who do you think has been such a revelation in that squad of France?
Well, while Mbappe has been a revelation, football is a team sport.
Yes.
And credit has to go to the entire squad. France have a very strong spine, starting with the goalkeeper Loris, the centre backs. We have Rafael Varane and Umtiti doing their work very well, and N'Golo Kante sweeping just in front of them. And Paul Pogba, with his range of passing, has opened up the game, freeing the likes of Griezmann and Mbappe to attack with precision, because Pogba has a wide range of passing that allows that frees those other players to thrive. So you can't really pinpoint and say it's Mbappe. Yes, it's Mbappe, but it's Mbappe because Pogba saw him with a pass, a good pass somewhere. It's Mbappe because Griezmann played as a decoy somewhere, letting him pass. So you can't really. While we give credit to the lad Mbappe, credit must go to the entire squad, right from the goalkeeper Hugo Lloris.
Petit, the Red Devils of Belgium against Japan in a round of 16, they're on the brink of elimination, just coming from behind to win 3-2, and we saw Roberto Martinez and his assistant Thierry Henry, a 1998 World Cup winner with France, now standing on the touchline and stamping the authority and making necessary substitutions that saw them win the fixture, bringing in Marouane Fellaini and Nacer Chadli, both featuring in English Premier League. And yesterday we saw them starting in that particular tie against Brazil, 5-time World Cup champions, with Carrasco and Martins now starting on the bench. Do you think that was a secret behind their victory? And Fellaini was such a pillar in the midfield to contain Neymar?
Well, in a tournament, as a manager, once you try something and it works for you, you have to maintain the winning team, because that tactic won him the match against Japan. Actually, many people criticized him for bringing on Fellaini and Chadli, who had not played a match in the World Cup before that game. But you look at this Belgium side and how it is organized. They have produced 9 different scorers, the highest in this tournament. So it shows you that they'll always create opportunities, and they have the depth in that team. And what is even more exciting about this Belgian side is that when Mertens is not scoring, Lukaku gets on the score sheet. Remember in the match against Tunisia, they withdrew Lukaku, and when Batshuayi came in, he had like 6 clear-cut chances of scoring, and he actually ended up scoring 1. So it shows you that in terms of creativity and moving forward, they are a very lethal side. And defensively, they have one. I said they have one of the best pairings in the Premier League. Vincent Kompany, he's won almost everything with Man City in England. So in terms of experience, they have a very experienced backline. And once you have an experienced backline, then as a manager, you can experiment easily with the other positions, because it's just a matter of changing personnel. And these are mature players, so they know the responsibility that you give them, and they'll execute it to perfection, like what Fellaini did yesterday in the Brazil game. Remember, in the previous match against Japan, he was brought in to help in attack. But against Brazil, his role was more to assist in defense. So it shows you that these are players who can pick up any role that is assigned to them, and once you have that as a manager, then you can tinkle with your lineup as much as you want.
And Belgium looks like the team that is the best balanced in the tournament from the goalkeeping department going forward, because you cannot take away their defense from what they did, you cannot take away their midfield from what they did, and their striking force. But one player in the striking force whom I'm singling out for teamwork and everything has to be Romelu Lukaku, because he makes such good runs that helped the other players to come up and score. You could realize the game against Japan, he left it for Chadli to come and score, because the run he makes is pull the other player away, make him follow me, give Chadli that chance to score. Yesterday you saw him pass the ball to Kevin De Bruyne. And that run, that explosiveness, the pace in him makes the other players actually rise to the occasion. And then it is the most balanced team, and age-wise, they are at their best, all the players in the Belgium side.
But while other tacticians have been getting their tactics right, others have been getting their tactics wrong in the name of Jorge Sampaoli of Argentina. We saw even the fielding, the squad naming, and some sort of, allegations being leveled against now Tite, the Brazilian tactician, in terms of formation and squad that always started even their round of 16 and group fixtures. Do you think he got it right, starting with people like Paulinho when Firmino was on the bench, and we saw when he was coming off the bench, creating some magic? What do you make of the squad and formation and lineups?
I think one of the problems I think Tite has experienced in this competition is he's a South American coach who has not traversed the world of football to know the other teams. There's coaches like Martinez, the coach of Deschamps. You look at them, they go into a match with a specific target. Every match has its own tactics, every match has its own making, and how it goes forward. For Brazil, from the first match up to this one, it is the same side, it is the same attacking style going forward. And all you look at Martinez, the game against England, he knew that I have already qualified. He rested 8 of his players. The game against Japan, he knew this is a lesser side. Fellaini and Chadli were off. The moment he realized that, hey, we might lose this game, he brought in the killer people to come and kill this game. You look at the game against Brazil yesterday, you saw what he did. Different setup, different players, and they won that game correctly. So for Tite, I think not exploring outside options of what you have was a failure for him.
I think what might have tripped Tite and his Brazilian Selecao was tinkering with their game plan. Remember, the last 4 months preceding the World Cup, Neymar was nowhere. Neymar was nursing an injury, and the team played several build-up matches without Neymar.
Yes.
And then suddenly Neymar comes back, and everything shifts, so that Brazil play around Neymar. They build their game around Neymar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the biggest undoing Tite made in this championship.
Touchline is the show on Y254. My name is Maxwell Wasiko. We're talking about FIFA World Cup and dissecting about what happened and looking forward to what's lined up. And 22162 is our SMS line, starting with the word touch. What do you think has been the standout moment for you during the 21st edition in Russia? And probably what happened to the so-called heavyweights now crashing out of the championship, defending champions, Germany getting eliminated, Spain 2010 World Cup winners, Brazil 5-time World Cup champions also getting eliminated, and even Argentina also crashing out, and several upsets, as Petit says, we're looking forward to as far as the semi-finals are concerned. But before that, and before we get to what your opinion is, let's talk about the fixtures for today. And England is playing against Sweden at 5 p.m. and the song outside there for English supporters is "It's Coming Home." By the way, that's the hashtag. Let's trend it.
Really? Okay.
Why are you pessimistic that England cannot beat Sweden?
Actually, I'm not.
And by the way, most Kenyans are rooting forward for Sweden because of Martin Olson.
Olson, I understand. Olson has played here, so the Kenyans will be rooting for their son, in quotes. Anyway, I remember last time I was here, I said people are ignoring England so much that they think that they cannot make it out of the group stages. So I told them, okay, fine. That's what you see, but England can really surprise people. And they're doing exactly that. Ken is doing his thing. He's now the top scorer with 6 goals. And their pace, the likes of Lingard, they're really giving people problems with their pace, actually. Okay, Sweden are really a good side defensively, let's say, because they were on the brink of going out, but they have at least managed, and now they're in the last 8. It will be a tough game, but I think, as you said, England will be able to edge Sweden out. Then we come to Russia, Croatia.
Before we get to Russia, Croatia at 9 p.m. James, what should Gareth Southgate do in terms of even formation and lineups to ensure that they get past a stubborn Swedish side. Of course, we've seen Zlatan Ibrahimovic, former international, speaking and even telling David Beckham that in case England wins, he will have to buy him anything he wants. But David Beckham replied saying that if England wins, of course, he will have to get invited to English fixture and to watch them while donning an English jersey. I don't know whether that one is likely to happen. What's your perspective about
Well,
that tie?
I think this will be among the easiest games England will face in this World Cup. Of course, including the Panama game and Tunisia, sort of. The reason why I'm saying that is because Sweden are not that adventurous. They are solid defensively, but they have a shortcoming. They are short attacking wise. Their last victory over Switzerland produced one shot on target, which was deflected into a goal, and that was the only shot they had. So the flair that currently is at the Three Lions camp will take them through. Individually, England have better players. 23 of the English squad play in the English Premier League.
Yes.
And while 22 of the Sweden players play outside, but in second tier leagues, Celtic,
Yes.
in mid-table teams of Europe. So
Yes.
I believe England have an easy match, easy in quotes, because they still have to maintain their tactical discipline. But it will be an easy match.
Petit, England has got no exceptional player except for Harry Kane, who is a top scorer with 6 goals so far. But we've also seen people who've spoken at club level like Moussa Dembele, that is for Belgium side, and Eric Dyer both playing for Spurs, not getting a place in the midfield. And I saw your tweet, by the way, trying to say how Jordan Henderson has not been convincing. Maybe from where you see, do you think it's high time now people like Eric Dyer, who scored a winning penalty against Colombia, can now start and come off the bench and start in the starting lineup for England against Sweden this afternoon?
I expect little changes in Southgate's lineup, especially for today's match. He's the kind of manager that loves continuity in his squad. So, but I think in terms of midfield play, you look at the game they played against Colombia. For the second half, apart from that penalty, the only chance that England created was from set-piece situations, which is very worrying against a Swedish side that made Germany look ordinary.
Yes.
Until the last minute when Toni Kroos happened, of course, with that fantastic free kick. So I'd like to differ with what Magaya said. This could be one of the toughest matches that England will face in this World Cup, because defensively Sweden is very solid. And we've seen England in this tournament against Tunisia. It was headed for a draw until that last minute, that corner that the Tunisians lost concentration and Harry Kane popped up. So today, Grankvist, the Swedish captain, he'll man-mark Kane to the last minute. So without Kane's brilliance, who will show up for England? That's the big question today. Because Forsberg, the Swedish midfielder who plays for RB Leipzig in Germany, he's a very clever player. And we've seen that the Swedish players, in terms of breaking forward in attack, in transition, they're very dangerous. We have the forward Toivonen. He scored against Germany. And it was a similar situation on the break. And my biggest worry is that the English side, defensively, they are lacking. Kyle Walker has been exposed before in his new role as a centre half. He has really been exposed against Tunisia. He gave away a cheap penalty. Harry Maguire likes driving forward a lot in this setup that Gareth Southgate has come up with. So I'm looking at a situation whereby Sweden could just frustrate England when it matters most.
I can add on to that, and James also. Sweden is the only team I think that has 3 clean sheets.
3 clean sheets in their last four matches.
Yeah,
they only conceded against the Germans.
Yeah, against the German team. So there's a team that actually looks to be really defensively sound and disciplined against this side, because you looked at them even against the German team, they soaked all the pressure. bring whatever you want, we can take it on. And the moment they go on a break, they can get that one chance and score that goal. You saw Berg scoring against Germany, and it took Germany really struggle for them to get the goals. Now the question will be, if Sweden can manage to soak the pressure and open up on the attack, will England lose the concentration of going forward? Because England can get into that groove. You are controlling the possession the way German did. You are controlling all the possession. You are getting everything right. But the moment you get to the final third or the 18-yard area, you cannot put those chances into, you cannot score. But Sweden get that one chance, get that mistake from England, they get one goal, they seem like they can defend and go to the semis.
The defensive setup of Sweden is about to change because Lustig is suspended for the game.
Yes.
That means they have to tweak a bit.
Yes.
Plus there was a fire alarm in their hotel and they didn't sleep well.
I think England will choose that.
So, like you're saying, it's going to boil down on how much they can soak the English pressure.
Yes.
And credit to Southgate, his side has managed to adapt to every game situation.
Yes.
Colombia was a very tough side, and it took them one set piece and their man mountain to equalize.
Yes.
Sweden have a higher height ratio compared to England, so the only threat Sweden can pose to England is from set pieces. And being a defensive side, I don't think they're going to get many.
Yeah.
If Colombia was restricted to one corner, which came in the 93rd minute, the way Colombians are offensive, I don't think Sweden are going to get much.
Offensive more than Colombia.
Trust me. What we have seen this World Cup, you don't have to get those 5 chances. Get one. That is it.
And
that's
capitalize on the same.
Yes, that's what Sweden are going to capitalize on. Actually, the match against Colombia, England were very, very lucky to get that penalty. The Kane penalty.
That was not luck.
Actually, they were very lucky.
That was an offense, an infraction that was duly punished.
Actually, Kane is the one who pulled that guy down. Trust me. If you look at the replays, that was no penalty. It was. You cannot get such a penalty in the English Premier League. You cannot.
Yeah,
you can, and I
because
wonder
there's
why.
no VAR.
Exactly, and I wonder why the referee did not go to the screen to check for himself.
Actually,
He did not go.
in case
He was
you haven't
told.
realized,
Yeah.
in case you haven't realized, the trend has changed. The referees no longer go to review.
They're
Yes.
They
being
are
told.
told.
Yeah, they are told. No, he can be told and then go and review
Yeah, but in
For
that
himself,
case,
to make-
it
to make a
trusted his
decision.
VAR. And
to make a decision
it
for
was a clear
himself.
penalty.
But Maxwell, I think one thing that will really stand out in this match is that for this tournament, Harry Kane has really stepped up.
Yeah.
And one thing that is for sure is that Sweden will deal with Harry Kane to the last minute.
Exactly.
So who will turn up for England?
For England,
They need
yeah.
a leader. Remember, this is a very young team, and they need a leader on the pitch. So Kane is the captain. And if Kane is marked out of the match, who will step up?
else?
That's the
And
biggest
talking
question.
about the same, do you think the main undoing of England, the Three Lions, has been lack of number 10 and probably lack of Jack Wilshere going to the World Cup? Because England has lacked someone like Eden Hazard, like Luka Modric, the Croatian playmaker, like Felipe Coutinho, that number 10 who can, rise to the occasion and partner with Kane up front and probably bang in goals. Do you think that has also been the main undoing, considering that Colombian game which they had to struggle until penalty shootouts?
I think their main undoing has been a failure to get the best out of Dele Alli. Because remember, when we see Kane, we see Dele Alli. He's the reason behind Kane's brilliant form at Tottenham Hotspur alongside Eriksen. So what Southgate has been trying to do is present a scenario similar to what happens at Tottenham Hotspur. But remember, there's no Eriksen in this squad. There's no player with such qualities as Eriksen. Remember, he's a very creative player, the Danish playmaker. He's very creative, and he's a player who likes drifting deep into his own half. So you tend to forget about him, and that is where now Dele Alli comes in, because he's very mobile and he's a very clever player. He knows how to run into those spaces, and Eriksen is always there to pick him out. But in this English side, Jesse Lingard, he has been playing as an offensive player, as a winger for Manchester United. Rarely has he played as a number 10. So in this team, he's expected to perform that number 10 role against alongside Dele Alli. So it becomes very difficult to create those chances for Harry Kane, and that has been their major undoing.
I think also it's because Gareth Southgate has set them in such a way that they do not need a number 10 role. Because when you look at their side, you look at 3 defenders at the back, then 2 full backs on the side, but at the center there you have got Loftus-Cheek, who is, people think that is a quiet player, but is having a lot of impacts in the team. Is balancing between the midfield, the attack and defense, and is people are saying is playing a Lampard style of game. And Loftus-Cheek has been a very good spine for the English side. He might not sparkle to the way the other guys have sparkled, but you realize that Gareth Southgate has trusted him in most of these matches, and there's one key player who might turn things around today.
James Magai, do you think it's high time now Gareth Southgate starts either Marcus Rashford in place of Raheem Sterling, who's not been convincing during the previous games, and probably, if possible, he can also partner Jamie Vardy, Harry Kane, forward line pair? What do you make of that kind of formation?
I think during the group stages, Raheem Sterling was awful, but against Colombia, I saw
He's improving.
flashes of his club form. I hope today he'll be better, but my main concern is Dele Alli. He looks like a player carrying an injury.
Yes.
And not really telling the coach to, not really giving up his position. That is my main worry. If Ali can perform 100%, and if Sterling can also replicate his showing against Colombia, then England will be unplayable.
And then Sweden have to take care of the psychological impact that the English players come with to the game. So what they did against Colombia, they know how to rattle these players. So Sweden have to be really, really cautious and disciplined against them, because they rattle you once, they have taken over the game.
And by the way, on behalf of the Rely On Supporters Club in Kenya, I'm really looking forward to that successful petition by Colombia. And I'm reliably informed it's gotten to 300,000 for seeking for a replay against England. And I'm sure in case it happens, they will be beaten home and square. Straight into 9 p.m. fixture, Russia against Croatia. Luka Modric has been the pillar.
That's the man. That's the man to watch in this fixture. Okay, Russia have been okay, fine. Let me say they have been fine, but I think Croatia will have too much for them. That man Luka Modric in that midfield doing his thing. Russia at home, yes, of course, we don't deny that. Golovin has been doing well in this campaign, but maybe I think the home supporters have been the 12th man for them. But today, Croatia are very disciplined defensively. Going forward, they are very, very fine. So I think it will be the end of the road for the hosts tonight.
James, it's been said that any team can win this World Cup, because even when the tournament was kicking off, they were favorites. Then they were average teams, which were also tipped, teams like Croatia and Belgium. But Croatia against Denmark, almost on the brink of getting eliminated, and so is Belgium against Japan. That's why there is a talk of any team can win the championship. But now going into this 9 p.m. fixture, Croatia against host Russia, and Vladimir Putin, I'm told he will be on the stands to watch the boys take on Croatia. What are you looking forward to?
Well, the smaller teams set out to frustrate the favorites in this tournament.
Yes.
And they managed to do so in the opening matches. And an underpass Spain fell for that trick against Russia. But I think the Russians' race is over tonight. And Putin will have to make do with that last 8 appearance. Croatia have one of the most talented squads.
Yes.
And going by Russia's progression, Croatia must have learnt a lot. I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes the previous teams made against Russia. I think the run is over tonight.
Petit, do you think the blend and gel of Croatian players has been quite superb? Mario Mandzukic up front, Ivan Perisic, Luka Modric at the middle pack of the team. What do you make of their tactical formation going into this fixture where they will be playing Russia and so under penalty against Spain and eliminating 20-time champions, and they have to be cautious against, you know, playing a team that, you know, is enjoying the support of home fans as a 12th player.
Well, home advantage has really been a major factor towards Russia's progression in this tournament. They are not in the quarters by chance. They have eliminated one of the best teams, that is Spain. But what did they do in that round of 16 fixture? They let Spain have entire possession and they sat back. They had a game plan. They knew that they've prepared very well for penalties, and in the penalty shootout, you saw Igor Akinfeev saving 2 penalties and ensuring Russia sealed a spot in the last 8. But that's the biggest mistake that they'll do today against Croatia, because in that Croatian side you have one of the most creative midfielders in Europe at the moment, that is Luka Modric, and alongside him we have Ivan Rakitic, another very clever player. So what the main difference between Croatia and Spain is that Croatia are more direct in terms of attack. The youngster Rebic has been a revelation in this tournament. I've heard you talked about Mbappe, but you've not talked about Rebic, who has been a big revelation in this tournament. Ivan Perisic coming from a very good season with Inter Milan, and also Mario Mandzukic, one of the best center forwards in the world. So I expect a very direct game from Croatia. They learned a lesson in the previous match against Denmark that, hey, we are one of the favorites at the moment, but we are still not there. We are still not the finished product. So expect a very direct match from Croatia. They'll take the game to Russia and look to seal it very early. So my bet is that Croatia will take a very early lead in the first half, and they might get a goal or 2 in the second half. I'll agree with the other pundits that it's clearly the end of the road for Russia.
Even the Russians themselves have actually come out and said, we have done our best. We did not see ourselves getting to this level. Yeah, getting to this level. I think even the home support is there, yes, but even the Russian people themselves are like, yeah, we have done our best. Russia, yes, they have good players in them. Akinfeev, the Golovin, as new one, is very good at them. But the Croatian players are superior when it comes to experience, and then they play in the best leagues in the world. They have players in Italy, they have players in Spain, they have players in England, and a player like Luka Modric, he's in his best prime. Look at what he has done with Real Madrid. Look at the way he's holding the Russian team. You can see a leader in the Russian team. Even the way they come out, the way they play, you can see that he is holding that team together. And for me, I bet Croatia might be in the final.
We wind up on the top scoring contention, and quite unfortunate, James Rodriguez, a man who was the top scorer for 2014 edition, didn't manage to score a goal during this championship because of an injury, and we saw him from the stands really, looking disappointed after England eliminated Colombia at the round of 16. Who do you think will make it as far as the top scoring chart is concerned? Harry Kane has 6 goals though. Some of them are penalties. Romelu Lukaku has 4. He's failed to score in his previous 2 fixtures. But big boys